it to the cloud. All right, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm watching. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to do some chaining. Which you already know how to do. Now, when you start the blanket, it's a good idea to chain one with a hook one step larger than the one you're going to do the rest of the project in.
Okay.
Because people tend to make their chains a little too tight, and you don't need a blanket with a tight start to the chain.
Right.
So I'm just going to chain. And I'm just going to do a row of single crochet because that's basically what you have to do.
Right.
I'm just going to do that, and then I'll pull it out and I'll do the stitch pattern with you. So when you single crochet, you skip the first stitch. And there are lots of places to go into the chain, but just for the sake of being easier today, I'm going to go into the top chain.
Right.
So I take my hook, I put it into the chain, I yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2. That's a single crochet. So let me do a couple of them. Insert the hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. So is that clear to you? You know how to do that?
Yeah. Do it one more time, then show me where do you put the hook now? Show me where you're going to put the hook in now.
So here's where I just was in. So are you right-handed or left-handed?
For this purpose, I would be right-handed. I'm usually left-handed, but I knit and crochet.
Okay. Yeah. So you would be tending to pull your work off to the right. So the way you know whether you have already used the chain is it has see these 2 little lines in here?
Yeah.
I need a pointer. These 2 little lines are the legs of the stitches. So I know that I have used that stitch already, that chain already.
Right.
So I do this part by visual and part by tactile. So here's my 2 fingers feeling this hole, and I just switch over a little bit to the left. Here's the next hole. So then I'm going to go into the next hole and do another single crochet.
Okay.
So here I am. And I tend to use my thumbs to mask. So right now I have my thumb resting on the next stitch. So I know where to go. So I have my thumbs there, my fingers there. I kind of squeeze and I go in. So I go into the stitch, pull up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2.
Okay.
And you just do that across. What you're going to do is not that much harder. I'm just going across so you can kind of watch.
How are you holding the wool in your left hand? Because as a knitter, I know it's very different.
Do you throw your yarn or do you do continental? Do you hold your yarn in your left hand when you knit?
Yes.
Okay. You probably can do exactly the same thing because that's what I do. I bring the yarn in with my palm up. I wrap the yarn around my pinky, put it over and I go like that.
Okay, so you did twice around your pinky. Okay. Okay.
I've seen people very successfully they come in from the top of their palm, come around these 2 fingers, go back around those 2 fingers and come out like this. That also works. This is too slow for me. It doesn't have enough give for me.
Right. Okay.
But if you already have a way of doing it, just go with that.
Okay.
So it's feeding. So then that's the end of the row. So what you're going to do has different properties, but if you were going to just single crochet, what you would do here to get the height for the next row is to chain 1 and turn.
Right.
And then go in. Now you're going into something different here. You're going into crochet stitches. And I'm not going to belabor that because that's not what you're going to be going into when you're doing this pattern. You're going to be going into chain spaces.
Okay.
Right? So I'm going to just get right to your pattern, which is not that much harder.
Right.
She calls for 303 stitches in a DK weight yarn. What yarn are you going to use? You know?
I don't know. Go into the store and see what she has.
Okay. Just be careful that you don't go too big. Otherwise, you'll have enough to like cover your car, your family, half your house. These things can get really big. Oh my God, look how big this blanket is. Or your family you'll be lost in it and they'll be searching for you inside the blanket.
I mean, if I can find the yarn that's the same kind of as yarn that she uses, you know, just to keep it simple.
Yes, I would. Yeah. Either a DK weight or a really light worsted weight yarn.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You also probably want to pick something that's washable because this is going to be big and it's not really going to fit in a washing machine really well. So you want to, I mean, just be thoughtful about how big it gets to be. All right, so she says to start with 303 stitches, and that tells me that I have a multiple of 2 plus 1. So that means if you want to change the size based on what she has, you have the option of chaining 2 fewer if you want to make it smaller, or 2 more if you want to make it less. But basically the formula for what she did at 303 stitches is did 2 times 151 plus 1. So this would be 302 plus 1. And I'll explain what the plus 1 means in a second. Okay. So if you want to change what this is and the sizing on this, because I highly recommend that you make a gauge swatch with the yarn that you get to see how big your blanket's going to be.
Right.
So I'm not going to do 303 stitches, obviously.
I don't think so.
I'm going to do a smaller number. So here I am, and let's see what I'll do. Maybe I'll do 13. 13 feels like a good number today. 1, okay. 2, 3. My yarn is fighting with me. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there's my 2 times 6 plus 1. I'm going to draw, these are the words for the pattern. I'm going to follow the words, but if you, let's just do that. Let's follow the words. So you are going to, remember when I did the single crochet and I chained 1 at the other? This third chain here has to do with that extra whatever. So I'm going to single crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. And it's going to make a chain 2 space. So this is the yarn on my hook. This does not count as a stitch. So if I count backwards, there's 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go into this 3rd stitch.
Can you do that for me again?
Sure.
The 3.
Yep. So here is the yarn on the hook, and here's 1 chain, 2 chains. There's the 3rd chain. So I'm going to single crochet into the 3rd chain.
Okay.
I have done the linen stitch before, and one of the things that sort of happens to you is the chain spaces that you're looking for can disappear on you. And again, you should be do a skill swatch before you launch into the blanket. But I like these little guys because they help me figure out where I am. And I'm going to use them now to help teach you. So there's my first stitch where I did a single crochet into the 3rd chain. I'm going to mark this because I need to know this is a chain 2 space. So now what I'm going to do for the rest of the row is I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, single crochet into the next stitch. So I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, and then single crochet into the next stitch. And what I've in fact made is a little box. and the box has a single crochet on one side, a single crochet on the other side, a chain stitch at the bottom, and a chain stitch at the top. Let me put that on a white background so it's a little easier to see. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah, it's just showing me where you go in again. So that is.
Oh, I'm going to show you across the row. So that's this. I'm establishing the pattern here. So this is one of these repeats, and
Right.
this asterisk means to just do it again and again. So I'm gonna, that lights up here is a little better. Chain one,
Okay.
skip one, single crochet into the next stitch.
Okay, so that's just doing that. Okay, then you're going to go through them both. Okay.
So the next thing I'm going to do is,
If you're going to mark that, what you just had.
yes, okay, I'll mark all of them then. So
where would you put the marker?
I would put the mark, because in the next row, you're going to put it into the, you're going to work in the chain space. So I put the marker on the chain, and I'll do that for the ones coming up. So I'll mark all of the boxes in this row. So I already did a chain one. So
Yeah.
I'm going to skip one, and I'm going to single crochet into the next chain. And then I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to find that chain that I made up here, and I'm going to mark it. Once you get this pattern down, it's not going to be an issue.
Okay, can you just show me again now, just the way we marked it, just move this on for a second, just so I can see visually where that would be.
So this is the chain space. And this will become easier if I understand what I'm doing when we go to the next row.
Right, okay.
All right. So I finished the repeat. So now I'm going to chain one, skip one, single crochet into the next stitch. Or I'm going to at least try to. So here's my one single crochet. Here's my other single crochet. And in between is this chain space. So I'm marking the chain space. I've got one more to go because I have two chains left. So I'm going to chain one, skip one, and single crochet into the last stitch. Now I'm not going to complete the stitch there, and I'm going to show you the reason why. The reason why is because the temperature changes every day, and you're going to be changing colors every day. So I need a scissor. I'm going to show you a few things at once. So when we change colors in the last thing that the last function or the last step of any stitch. So in a single crochet, that means, and let me redo this single crochet so that you can see. Insert the hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. The last function would be yarn over, pull through. But I'm not going to do that because I'm going to change colors.
So it wouldn't be for the chain, it would be for this bit then.
It would be to finish this row, but to get ready for the next row. So like it's the end of today, right? And I don't know what the temperature is going to be tomorrow. So I would leave it like this. And then tomorrow I find out it's this temperature. So I'm going to change. Okay. Obviously, hopefully not going to change that dramatically in a day, but it helps you to see. So in order to change the color, all I do is loop the new yarn. Take the new yarn, just make a loop. And pull up the loop and pull it through. And now my color's changed. And by changing the color that way, the old color is still visible on this row. It hasn't changed this row, but I'm ready to work the new color in the next row. Okay. All right. So, okay. Let me get some, well, these markers should be fine. All right. Next row. Next row, I believe.
Not the new color or anything. That's just all you do. Just loop it on like that. That's it.
Oh no, I'm getting ready to do the next row. So this is January 1st. Now we're going to January 2nd. So for January 2nd, I'm going to follow the pattern and chain 1, 2, and turn. I could have turned earlier, but I didn't. Now, I'm not going to work in any of the single crochets that are coming forward. I'm only looking for the chain spaces because it says skip the first single crochet in the first chain space, chain one. So row one was a setup row. It gets done once, you never do it again. Row two is the row you will be doing for the next 364 days.
You're so optimistic.
You will be so good at it. All right, so our chain one space is where I put the marker. I'm going to leave the marker in just for the sake of argument here. So this is a chain two. So remember that because you're going to have a chain two space at the end of each row.
Right.
So I'm going to go into this space and I don't have to go into stitch. All I have to do is put my hook into the void, the opening right there, and pull up a loop. But I'm going to show you something that's going to make your life much easier. So let me do this first. You're going to have ends on every single row because you're going to, well, for most rows, you're going to have ends on each row. And that's going to be a pain in the patootie. So you want to work over the ends, right, to make your life simpler. So I'm going to, and you might like this and you might not like it. You might choose to do something different. I'm going to lay this over the top. This is a way to do it. It's a choice that you can make or not make. You can always leave the ends and weave them in. I personally like needle and threads and weaving them in, but I wanted you to see. So I'm going into the first chain one space and I'm going to make a single crochet in the chain one space. Now also keep in mind when you see, you're going to see some bleed through on the colors. This yarn is super, super thick so that it makes it easier for you to see what I'm doing here. So yours is going to come out tighter and a little cleaner. So then what does it say to do next? Oh, chain one, skip the single crochet, go into the next chain one space and single crochet in the chain one space. So you just are looking for chain one. So you see your chain one is living above this single crochet. I'm going to drop the color thing now. And I'm just going to go into the void that's this chain one space. And chain one, skip the single crochet, go into the chain one space, single crochet, chain one, skip the single crochet, go into the chain one space, chain one, and then the ending says that you're going to end up in the chain two space, which was this first space you made right here. So I'm going to end up there.
Okay.
So for the sake of argument, let's say that it got to be a different color the next day. So now it's a pink day. So I left this, the last thing that I did here, like that. And then I'm just going to make a loop and pull through. So this is, this could be January 1st, January 2nd. Now we're doing January 3rd. So we're going to repeat row two, chain two, stuck, chain two, turn the work.
Now, now I've got to see it. So then there's the hole.
There's the hole. This single crochet got really loose. So let me tighten that up. So there's the hole. And again, I'm going to use my fingers because it's easier for me to, it's part of like the thing is I go forward, my eyes are looking at what I'm doing, but my fingers are feeling for where I'm going to go next. And that's
always going to be between, like when you look at it now, you see how like you've got that V with the white color?
Right. That's the single crochet.
Right. And so there's always going to be between those two.
Exactly. Right in between there is like a little box. And you just go into the box and put the single crochet in that row. So basically when you are, and I'm going to make a drawing of the stitch itself to help you, because people think in different ways. And the more ways I can explain it to you, the better. I know the better off I am.
Right.
I have it explained to me in different ways. So I'm skipping the stitch. I chained one. I go into the next one. chain one, whoops, skip the single crochet, go into the next stitch, chain one, here's my chain two space. So all I'm going to do is go into this one and wait for January 4th to happen.
Right.
And that's really what there is to it.
Right. Okay.
It's not any harder than that.
I think it's getting the first 2 rows done, and then after that, it seems becomes more.
Yes. So the problem, let me put my face back on. The problem when whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. The problem happens when you have much smaller yarn. It can be hard to see where those spaces are. So I honestly believe that you should do, first of all, you need to do a gauge swatch so that you know how big your blanket's going to turn out to be. So again, it's not gargantuan, or, I mean, you can make one that's just a small throw. It could just be, long and narrow, but that's completely up to you. But practice this first, because when the stitches are small, it's hard to find those little chain spaces. They run away on you. So get as many stitch markers, use bobby pins, use, you don't have to buy 100 stitch markers. Bobby pins work. Safety pins are a little iffy. You can use little tags of yarn or something. But to get the pattern established in the beginning, mark those little spaces and count. So if you know how many to count, so after you do it for a while, you still are going to need to count, because you can lose track when it goes longer, but you need to keep track of those little boxes. But once you do a couple of rows of it, it will be much, much easier. And
so you're counting it. So you're saying that it would be, let's say you're doing, what was it 303? It would be 151 then?
No, 151. When she did multiples of 2, she did 151 sets of 2 plus 1. So if you wanted to make your blanket narrower, you could do any number. Like, let's say you wanted it narrower and you did 140 times 2 plus 1. So then you would be doing 181 chains instead of, no, that's wrong. Bad math. 202. It's late in the day. 280 plus 81 stitches. So it would change based on what you were going to do. And you're not going to be able to tell from a skein of yarn. Like, the skein of yarn is going to say something on the side like 18 stitches equals 4 inches, or 22 stitches equals 4 inches. That's not going to work, because the indication on the band of the yarn band is for stockinette stitch, and you are doing linen stitch, and it's going to have a different gauge.
Right. I think my question was, once you get going, how many times you go into that hole, right, it's going to be less than the 300 stitches, because you're always skipping a stitch.
Okay, here's where the little drawing will help.
Okay, because you said count how many boxes.
It's not gonna happen that way, because basically, think of a brick wall. It's going to be more like a brick wall. Let me go back to this. I'm going to do just a short one of this. So let's say we chain. So we're going to start our chains this way. We'll do what I did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right. So I'm going to put my first single crochet here, because remember I put the single crochet, this is for my chain row, right? I put my first single crochet in the third chain from the hook. So this makes, another color. That makes a chain 2 space. It's an H. Okay, so then what I did was I chained 1, I single crocheted, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. So there's my first row.
Right.
And then I chained 2, which is my next chain 2 space on the edge. And then I single crocheted here and chained.
Ah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So you're not actually losing any stitches because you're gonna, so this one shifts this way, this one shifts that way, this one shifts this, and you actually picked a good pattern because this is a very common pattern, but it's done in many different ways, and this is probably the least confusing way to do it. So bravo for you for picking this pattern. So you will always have the same number of stitches in each row. It's just they're going to be here in one row and they're going to move over to the next row. And then when you come back up to this row, the third row here, the single crochets are going to line up here, and then the next row, they're going to line up there. So you'll still have the same number of stitches the entire time through.
So when you say count the boxes, what boxes are you talking about?
So the boxes that you're working into, these are the boxes you're working into. So even though these single crochets are floating above these boxes in my diagram, they're actually worked right into them.
So how many boxes would that be? You had how many stitches? You put 13 stitches and there are 5
Oh,
boxes.
so you should have probably, if there's 303, probably 150 plus the chain 2 space. So that would make yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. How many boxes? How do you figure out how many boxes you should have? That's the question. What's the math for the boxes?
It should be a multiple of 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be a multiple of 2. Yes, because it's in the pattern.
Minus.
I put the pattern on my iPad and on my desktop because she has. Yes, it's a multiple of 2. So there's an equal number. Each row should have an equal number of single crochets and spaces.
Right. But let's say if you were knitting 203, I mean, if you crochet 203, you start up with 203 stitches, it would be 100 boxes because there's 3 at the end of the chain, right?
Yes.
That's what I'm just thinking. Actually, I know how to like figure out the math of it. Because those would be.
That sounds right to me. So let's see. I did 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, that's right.
Okay,
right.
that's what
it would be yes.
Okay, that's good. I think for me,
losing my seat. This is my husband's. We share, and he's got this chair set for him. And occasionally, I just start rolling back because my feet don't touch the ground. Woo! I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, so for me, the biggest thing would be just those first 2 rows are going to be the hardest.
Yes.
But
if you make that swatch,
yeah,
and like make a swatch that is don't make it too stingy because you're going to be making something big. You really want it to be big. So make 6 inches wide.
Okay.
By about, maybe it doesn't really matter the row gauge because you're going to do 365 rows no matter what. So who cares? It doesn't really matter. It's going to be plenty big enough no matter what you do. It's really the width you want to worry about.
Right. I think it's what a lot of them talk about is the shape of them. So she talks about it, I think she did. I read a lot of different things about it. Like if you're not careful, you get these weird shaped blankets, right? That are either too skinny and long, like they don't look odd.
They're not proportional, right? Right, exactly.
That's why, I like what she did. And if I can get something that matches whatever gauge, whatever kind of.
Well, if you can match her gauge, that would be fabulous.
I
had a little trouble with the math of her gauge, honestly. Right? When I took her gauge and broke it down into inches and multiplied it by the dimension she came out with, I didn't get the same numbers. Oh, and I don't know why. Yeah. So the other thing I would do if I were you is, because this is a blanket and blankets live with people, I would make sure that you wash this swatch to see how it's going to act after it's washed. And after it's washed, not when it's sopping wet, but while it's still damp, get a clothes hanger and some binder clips and let it hang. Because the weight of the blanket itself is going to pull on all the other stitches, and it's going to stretch. Like if you make something this big, it's not going to stretch that much because there's not much weight. But if you make a giant blanket, it's going to stretch. So I would let it hang, maybe put binder clips on the bottom to see if the size changes any bit. I mean, this is like a way over the top. You don't have to do any of these things, but just to give you the idea that once you make the blanket, it can stretch.
Right.
So you have to don't make it out of alpaca. Alpaca stretches. Make it out of, they'll help you. They're good at the yarn store. They'll help you with something.
Okay.
But, make it a superwash if you can, or a cotton wool blend that will, something that's washable. And also make sure it feels nice, because you can have this blanket and then nobody wants to touch it because it's scratchy.
Right. Well, usually I've been knitting all these blankets just from companies in England that have this lovely super soft wools, but I don't know here, it's a different situation here.
Yeah.
Okay,
And after you wash a little bit, when you do wash it, if it is a little scratchy, I find that if I put it into the water with some hair conditioner and slosh it around in the hair, it's basically the same thing that makes your hair smooth, makes the wool smooth. Not a lot, just a sparse amount. Put into the water, swish it around in the water and put it in. It can take some of the itchiness away from wool.
Oh, that's interesting. It's good to know.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell my sister to wear a blanket, and she's very sensitive, so I've got very soft wool, but I'll tell her that she wants to just soften it even more.
Yeah, it might help.
Yeah.
It's helpful. So
thank you so much. That's fantastic.
So it's going to take me a little bit. I haven't done this in a while. I have to put this up on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, so that you can see it, because this will not glump through my email attachments. I've tried. It goes, too big. Okay, so I'll just I can transfer it and put it onto YouTube and send you a link, and then you can watch it. But I would not look for that. I will send you an email when it's live.
Okay.
All right. It's another great opportunity for me to practice new things.
That is. That's great. And I have to get to the store tomorrow because January 1st is coming.
It is. It's absolutely coming. In the meantime, if you've got some scrap yarn, just practice the stitch.
Yeah, I have. But I have my thing here, and I've been using scrap yarn to do.
Yeah. Practice the stitch and before you do your gauge swatch.
For sure.
Do you have any other questions? Have I helped you?
Awesome. Yes, you've been great.
Okay. Good. Glad to hear that. Good.
All right.
Well, Happy New Year.
And you?
May the temperature be, I don't know what I want. I want it to be a healthy earth temperatures.
All right. The temperature that's good for the planet. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Take care.
Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye.